Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth, a study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science, a study of fake, lie, or imagination. I have very special guest, the yoga scientist. Let us welcome Atul Vyas, who has published more than 22 articles so far in leading American publications. And I'll also request him to publish on sattology.com also, so that people can get a job.
Sure.
Send it to
By
us.
the way, I have written for Hindustan Time, the biggest national daily, for 30 long years. I've been their yoga columnist, longest world columnist on the yoga in the world.
Thank you.
Aditi ji.
Amazing. Congratulations. So the word stresses people out. It's a very irony. So there is a big joke behind stress. There's a stress test. There's a stress test also in software industry. Stress test. There's a stress test in missiles. There's a stress test in all the technology world. Stress test is everywhere. It's
Yes.
called- there's a Kali framework for cybersecurity, and there's a stress test over there too. So, I mean, there is a stress test everywhere, but there's no stress test for humans. Why is that?
For steel, there is a stress test. And the more the stress steel is, the more stronger the steel is.
For the humans, like there is no stress test because humans are stressed with all the stress tests they are doing. So can you hear me? I can't see you right now.
No, it's okay now. Yeah.
So for the humans, there is no stress test. So if the stress test was designed for humans, what would be that looking like?
Face, your jawline, if it is like dropped, it's like this, you are stressed, pouted, you are stressed. If it is like this, up, you are distressed.
Then,
Depends on the shape of your lips.
well, in 2019, I was sick, and then my one side of my mouth was hanging. So I was going through the stress test then, according to you. Yeah.
Half happy, half happy, half unhappy. Right side happy and left side unhappy.
So there is no stress test designed for humans. So why humans are always stressed? Then tell me.
Because there is no stress test for them.
You know,
Because
is,
there is no.
isn't it a normal thing that a human should be living happily? Is the most luxurious yoni and it's the most luxurious body, and still people are stressed. I don't understand. Like, it is dukhalayam. Your expectation should be very low. That this is place you'll get dukh only. You cannot get sukh. Means you will only get sorrows, sadness, problems in this world. And if you take that as normal, taking Krishna's words here, then there is no dukh in this world because you're living in dukhalaya. So if you are able to experience little happiness, you should be surprised and shocked. And if you're laughing, that means you should think that is the greatest mercy of Bhagwan on you. What do you have to say on that?
Oh, yeah. Actually, the definition of the stress is it is body's natural response to the perceived threat. I please note the word perceived threat. So, I mean, basically, it is your perception. There is a saying: if you change your way of seeing, you change your way of being. So, everything lies in the perception. So, even if you are in a dukhalaya, but if you perceive it as a not a dukhalaya, but it's a wonderful place. See how people are moving all about. They are so much worried about their future, about things. They are collecting money because, despite the fact that their time is limited, yet they are earning. They are after the money, and ultimately, what happens? They collect the money, and the money is left behind, and they leave. So this is actually a very funny place, to be honest. So if you observe people and their priorities, it is very de-stressing. If you look at the people getting worried over things, if you look at the people, if their car is, there is a dent on their Mercedes Benz, though they are so much shaken. So if I look around the world, to be honest, objectively, it is very de-stressing, Aditya ji. So it is all in the mind, to be honest.
You said perception of threat, and if you look at the
Perceived threat, perceived
perceived threat,
threat.
perceived threat. Now, like agami, aane wala hai, that is going to come. Now, the question to you is like, for example, we are talking about the stress, but we are laughing. So it's a real comedy is going on right now because we are talking about stress and we are not stressed at all. The 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 word stress itself is very stressful. Like I said before. Now the question comes into the mind is the if you look at the West has everything, all the material conveniences. And I've been living in this country for such a long time. I have not seen anyone happy. Perhaps, perhaps the happiness is so you attain something, you are happy, and then again the frontier changes. Okay, so again you are unhappy. Again you're looking for the next goal. Is it like craziness, or is it like and then on top of it they show ads. Ki when you become old, then you're moving around with your wife happily. Who has been happy in the old age? I don't know anyone. You know,
Anyway, but if you talk about happiness, in yoga there is a very eternal law that happiness is is indirectly proportional to the desires. More than, I repeat, happiness is inversely proportional to desires. That is, if your desires are less, you are more happy. If desires are more, you are less happy, or rather unhappy. So this law stands out as a perfect for happiness. This is not my law, it is a yogic law, Aditya ji.
I met one guy. His title was CHO, Chief Happiness Officer. Okay? Like CEO, Chief Executive Officer, that he's the head of his business, and his job is to sell happiness. His product is happiness. And there's a guy who I met him in many trade shows. I used to laugh at his business card, Chief Happiness Officer. I said, okay. And he was the most miserable guy I ever met because he was always, he, he met me in a trade show. First of all, he asked me where is the coffee station. So he was anxiety over coffee. And then once he reached there, then I saw him worried about his cab. So I said, if is the cab going to come on time or not? The most miserable guy is the chief happiness officer. Okay. And if you're watching the show, then you should know what I'm talking about you. So the point which I'm trying to say is everyone wants to be happy in Dukhalaya. And everyone wants to be happy. And they're right to be happy. They have a right to be happy. But now when it comes to the managing the stress, and we all know that in today's age, stress is the biggest cause for diseases, number one. And most of the diseases are stress related. Most of the diseases are the psychiatric problems are stress related. And the biggest stress is the income. Biggest. Because somehow people have connected happiness with money. And but if you look at the ancient example, money is important, no doubt about it, but not at the cost of you. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatva. No, and even big sadhus are unhappy. Look at their faces, they have lines, deep lines. And I'm saying you're supposed to give Brahma Bhuta Prasannatva. Na shochati na kankshati. What are you worried about? So you tell me one thing. So if the sadhus themselves who are stressed out for something which worry, they are looking for, what is the hope for a common man and how they can be stress free?
Well, there is great hope for every common man. But before we delve on this subject, first let us understand the term stress, who coined it, when it was coined, what does it mean, and what is stress response. So these, and then you will be surprised that this body has both these switches. One is to on the stress and one is to off the stress. So you can put on the stress button and you can put off the stress button. Though they are uh, uh, the they are involuntary, but you can bring them under your control, Adityaji, through yoga. So first, if I talk about the term stress, this term was coined by Hans Salve in 1930, a Canadian doctor and a scientist. And the stress, as I mentioned, it lies, it is the body's natural response to the perceived threat. If a situation, any situation is there, and you don't perceive any threat, you will not be stressed. For example, uh, I give the example of Telanga Swami, that there was a king of Nepal who went hunting for the tigers, and he saw few Nepal tigers are very big, long and very sturdy and very violent. So when he saw three tigers, he was with his army. They zeroed on those tigers, but the tiger feared for their life and ran towards Telanga Swami. And they sat behind him like a pet, and he was petting them. When the king reached there, he was scared that these huge tigers are sitting beside a yogi. And then he said, Telanga Swami said in Hindi, अपने दिल से हिंसा का त्याग कर दो. Leave the violence out of your mind. They will not harm you. And the moment the king obeyed him, he was very comfortable with the tigers who was, hunting them, who was scared of them. So this is basically to explain that even tigers were not threatening to Telanga Swami because he did not perceive any threat from them. So it is in your perception that body starts the stress response. Now I will discuss with your permission what is the stress response of the body when they perceive a threat, which could be real, which could be physical, which could be psychological as well. For example, if you confront a tiger, what will happen? Let's imagine that. Your heart started pounding, your muscles get tense, your eyes pupil dilated, your blood pressure goes up, your glucose is released into the blood, pumped into the blood, your lungs are open, you are breathing deeply, your senses get very alert, and you get so much energy out of adrenaline, because stress causes two reactions: either fight or flight. Either you fight the situation, for that they give you energy, and or you run away from the situation, for that also you need energy. So this is all preparing the body for even eventuality. Immune system is revved up, the heart system is blunted, that you don't, the pain system is blunted so that you don't feel the pain. So your blood clotting mechanism is activated. So these, and your digestion is suppressed. Reproduction, digestion, growth are suppressed so as to conserve the energy and send it to the body to fight the stress. So these are the natural mechanism of the body which they develop to fight for fight any perceived threat. And then this system is can be neutralized by another system within the body, which is called relaxation response. It is also created by the body and brain, that it brings exactly the opposite reaction to what stressor has caused, that it calms down the heart rate, brings down the BP, lowers the metabolism, uh, relaxes the muscles, rev up the digestion process, relaxes the immune system, relaxes the muscles. So they both these relaxation response and stress response are inherent in the body, but they depend on how you perceive a situation which we call stressor. And every individual has a different level of facing the stress. That is, when the stress system is activated, it depends on every individual to individual, and that level, when the stress reaction starts in your body, is called uh, stress tolerance limit of that person, Aditya ji.
So yoga asana has a big uh, uh, factor in contributing to it. I'm my new book I'm writing, so I know many technical terms. I'm going through the Yoga Sutra completely. So I have a big factor in contributing, removing the stress and making yourself mentally stable, because most of the stress is, like you said, is perceived threat, is perceived problem in the future. So isn't that the, you know, yoga vrittish nirodhascha, like they say vritti nirodha, to halt the vritti is the yoga. You halt the vritti. Now the so when we talk about future, everyone is worried about the future, and especially those people who believe in one life syndrome. I call it one life syndrome because it's a crazy idea. So people who are in one life syndrome, they see no hope because they're not being sold any hope. They are working on Charvak Rakshas philosophy. Charvak Rakshas is just Gridam, Dritva, Pibet. Like they have take loan and have give.
Rinam kritta gratam pivet.
American philosophy. Charvak Rakshas philosophy is American philosophy. So, and which is also coming to India also, fast food, everything is all Charvak mindset. And loans are not never existing, were banned earlier, because only if you have the capacity, then only you buy, but no loans, because loans put you in perpetual cycle of debt. But the entire Western countries, including USA has a debt ratio to actual income is 700 times. Like that means every American owes around, people say, 700 times the national debt to the other countries who are supplying them on debt, and they're printing notes over there. So don't you think the modern life systems are designed to create stress? And then we have yoga, which is saying stop all material needs. Extreme now, totally extreme. Vritti nirodhascha. So where do you see a solution now as a yoga scientist?
One does not, one need not to be leaving the world and living like a sages in the forest. No, no, no. For to de-stress, yoga has given many techniques. They are wonderful techniques. If I can uh, very briefly explain, there are four important techniques, among others, in yoga. One is QRT, quick relaxation techniques, and other is somatic relaxation techniques, SR, deep relaxation techniques, DRT. The point is that uh, one can living even in the world, and I mean living a normal life of a grahastha, and doing all their duties, enjoying life as well, can be still be stress. These can live a very stressless life or comparatively better life. You know what? Our body from the ancient times is basically designed to bear intense stress for short times, not small stresses for longer time. Like for, I mean, the present lifestyle is we are stressed to catch a train, we are stressed for a meeting, we are stressed for an appointment, we are stressed for to get something done immediately, or so small stresses, eating fast food, eating breakfast, eating lunch quickly, you are given time, finishing a task, deadlines. These are small stresses, and when these small stresses are perpetual or for a longer time, then they cause diseases which are which can which first originate in psyche, then their second step is psychosomatic, third step is somatic, and fourth step is organic. And yoga has solutions not only to prevent them, but even if they set in, at every stage we have a solution to control them and to cure them. Aditi ji.
So do you recommend any particular yoga asana, especially for stress? What do you recommend? Because I know Anulom Vilom really helps a lot. Pranayam helps a lot. But do you recommend any exercises for people to do that?
No, there are many things. There are two pathways. One is called SAM and one is called HPA. So these pathways are I mean, originate from the sympathetic brain, sympathetic nervous system. So uh, these can be controlled through yoga very effectively, and there is absolutely, I mean, scientific validation. For example, Dr. Herbert Benson, the cardiologist MD of Harvard University, has has researched and medically validated what I'm going to say now, that uh, uh, that if one deliberately let go of things, traumatic past memory, there is a technique for that. Then what happens? There is an internal release of nitric oxide in the body, which counters the stress hormones which are released through the two pathways I mentioned just before that. And these harmful stress hormones called epinephrine or adrenaline or noradrenaline and cortisone, they are neutralized by that nitric oxide. Not only these are neutralized, but the good neurotransmitters like dopamine and epinephrine uh, um, are released, which gives a sense of well-being and happiness. So yoga has a very powerful technique, not only of meditation, but there is a host of techniques. To uh, prevent, cure stress-borne diseases. Aditi ji.
Yeah, thank you for that answer there. One last question I have on this series, because the people are enjoying our conversation now. I can see that a lot of thumbs up are coming. So the concept of the modern education, I call it the regressive education. They call it progressive education, is to create new fault lines regularly. Like the gender bias has become very, gender definition has become very stressful for many people, and redefining genders. So probably Americans will have three or four genders, but rest of the world will still continue to have two. But so the problem is there is a stark notion that in USA, especially American academics, they are regularly trying to engineer some new fault lines to increase the stress level. Just imagine a child who has to go to a restroom and he has to decide which restroom he needs to go to. Or there is a common restroom, which is a big stress factor for some people. Can be. I'm taking just simple example, very common to all. So do you think do you think like from an Indian perspective, is it craziness or normal?
See, well, stress is has got two components. Yankee and Dodal, there were two scientists who gave a law which is called Yankee and Dodal law. They said that low stress means low motivation, low performance, poor performance, and higher stress increases performance and motivation. But there is a catch. This is true that low stress or perhaps no stress causes no motivation and performance is very poor. But increased stress, as I said, stress has got a bell shaped curve. So the peak of that curve is your stress tolerance limit. Till you reach that curve, that stress is called euro stress or good stress. And beyond that level, when it comes down, is called distress. So stress has got two components, good and bad. Now it is your perception and your ability how much how much quantity of stress is euro stress for you, and from where which level euro stress become distress. So it is not the event or it is not the external reality, but it is your personal individual capacity to combat stress or counter stress or face stress, Aditi ji. So child having to decide is not stressful a situation, but it depends on his constitution, mental constitution, physical constitution, which and how much he can face the stress. This can be the stress tolerance limit can be increased through some practices which are there in yoga. So stress is not there in the objects or events or phenomena. It is there inside you, Aditi.
Thank you so much, Atulji. And you all got the answer. Stress is inside you. And just to remove stress, eat well, eat healthy, and try to learn how to be happy, because we have learned how to be always sad or worried about something which is in future. It applies to me and applies to you, applies to everyone. So thank you so much, Atulji, for coming on the show, and thank you all the viewers for watching it and enjoying the show. I can see a lot of thumbs up and laughter coming out. And so just understand the stress itself is a stressful word, so avoid it. Stop using the word stress also. Just call it happiness of life. All right.
Without stress, life is so dull and jittery, to be honest. So love is stress. Without that, life would be very, very boring and dull and tamasic.
And if you read
Aditi ji.
Bhagavad Gita, keep your expectation very low. It's called Dukhalaya, Asukam. So this place is designed.
Best way is Nishkam Karma, coming from Gita. If you do Nishkam Karma, karma without attachment, dynamic, be a workaholic, but without attachment, just your duty. See, there will be no stress and the performance will be very high. Aditi.
Thank you, Atulji. Very rightly you said it, and thank you for all the viewers for watching. And focus on that last word. Nishkam Kar means work without attachment. And namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you and very good morning and have a nice day, all of you. Thank you.